Díobh Gachtain, hello everyone. You're really welcome to the alternative to Scoil gCláirseach 2020, the festival of early Irish harp which normally takes place each August in Kilkenny in Ireland. Between the 13th and 17th of August 2020, we'll be joining together each day to watch a talk, a workshop and concert footage from previous Scoilna. Find out more on our website at irishharp.org. So it's the last day of our 2020 Alternative Festival, and we welcome you to today's workshop.
So thinking about our historical music from the point of view of emotions is a really interesting way to look at it. We tend to look at technique and so-called interpretation, but this way makes us think, how's it going to affect the listener? What are the emotions they're going to get from it? And so hence the word passions in my title. We're going to be looking at a very technical subject, the question of modes, but thinking of the emotional effect of them. Pentatonic. This is the idea that Irish music concentrates on 5 notes of the scale. Some pieces exclusively use 5 notes. Some mostly use 5 notes. Nearly all of them focus on a 5-note scale as the real skeleton of the melody. So, we're talking about Pentatonic Passions. Passions, the emotions that are there in this music. Pentatonic, 5 notes. The idea that Irish music, some tunes are exclusively on 5 notes. Many are based around 5 notes. Nearly all of them have a strong centre around a 5-note scale. The easiest way to think of a 5-note scale is like the black notes on a piano. And that would give you D flat, E flat, G flat, A flat, B flat, ba 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 B, ba 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 B. That's not terribly useful for the harp, but if we take away the flats, we end up with D, E, G, A, B. Okay? And that's our pentatonic, those 5 notes. So for the new arrivals, get your tuning keys in your hands now. Get your tuning keys in your hands now. This is the tuning key, and this is the hand. Put one in the other. Find your C string. Could you just get your tuning key in your hand? A harp without a tuning key is like a car without an ignition key. Could you lend her a... Yeah. Find your C string, whichever octave you want to work in, and just tune it down a little bit till it's the same as the B string. So the first thing that's rather nice about this pentatonic tuning is that it's really almost impossible to make a mistake, because everything sounds good. Everything sounds good. So just spend a little moment, just experiment with your own harp, and just play some things, just move your fingers around on the strings, and enjoy pentatonic perfection. We don't know so much about very early tunings of Irish harps. The tunings we have come from Bunting, So they're around the year 1800. That's rather late. The music we like the most is 100 years or more earlier. So we've got the problem that our technical information is rather later than the stuff we're actually interested in. But what we do have is we've got this Welsh Ap Hugh manuscript, and that gives us a number of tunings, one of which is pentatonic. And many of the tunings have this idea of having certain notes come twice and other notes therefore be missing entirely. So that when you're trying to play in a certain mode, you don't have to find that mode, you tune the mode in. And that's the medieval approach, and that's why I was actually being quite pushy against Simon there, because the medieval approach to modes is not to play them. It's just to fix your instrument into that mode, and now you can't go wrong, as you've just found out. You tune the whole instrument into the mode, and now you're there. So what this Ap Hugh manuscript tells you to do, it gives you lots of different ways to tune your instrument. That's a common thing. We have the same idea for the viola da gamba and the same idea for the lute, that there were many different tunings, and they liked the special effect of different tunings. So a very different way of thinking than the modern way, where there is one way to tune your instrument and you never change it. The early approach is, yeah, tune how you like. And especially with the harp, when we go back, right back to medieval sources, there's many descriptions of a sort of social occasion. You've got sort of King Arthur and his knights, or some other group like that, but literally King Arthur and his knights. And they pass the harp around, and everybody gets a go to play. But each person who gets the harp retunes it. Not because it's out of tune, because somebody else has just played on it, it's in tune. But they retune it into another mode, ready to play a different piece. So you're tuning the modes into the harp rather than picking out the notes you want. So here are the notes we've got. D, E, G, A, B. But that by itself is not a mode. There's actually 5 different modes there, depending on which of those notes is the central note, I could say the key note. Now, we've got a real problem here. We don't have an agreed vocabulary. So words like keynote are to do with modern scales, so they're wrong. And all the vocabulary we have to do with Western modes are not the same as these Gaelic pentatonic modes. So we don't really have any proper words. But the words we need some kind of idea of what to call each mode. And we need a concept of the important note of the mode. Does anybody know what that's called in European music, the really important note of a mode? That's the modern word for modern scales, it's called the tonic. Yeah, so in modern scales, absolutely right, it's called the tonic. But what's it called for modes? I've told many people sitting in this room, I've told them this. Told you this, Paul.
Based on the, is it based
No,
on
no,
sorry. Is it based on their version of tonic salt?
No.
The good note.
No, that's to do with rhythm, good and bad notes. Yeah. In European music, the really important note of a mode is called the final. The final. And how do you find it? When you've got a piece, how do you find which is the final? It's the last note. That's great, that's really easy. However, there's a problem with Irish music. Many Irish tunes don't end on their final. Yeah? They've got a really obvious centre to them, but they don't end on that note. It's these tunes that kind of end in mid-air. So one of the ones I played last night is like that stingo. Yum ba ba da da doo dum ba dum ba dee da dee da. This is the keynotes da da dee da. Here it is da dee da. Yum ba ba da 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 dum ba dee da dee. Yum ba ba da da ba da 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 da. Keynote, last note. So it ends up in the air, and that's great because it invites you to go and start again. But the tune doesn't end on its final. Okay, so the name final, which is a really super name for European modes, isn't a especially helpful name. Yeah. So I don't know what to call it. I really don't. But for now, let's call it tonic. Yeah? Remembering that it's not quite the right technical word, because that's a modern technical word for modern scales. But we could call it the centre. Maybe let's call it the centre. Let's call it the centre.
Core.
Centre. Core. Nice. Sorry?
Root.
Yeah, whatever. I like centre. You can call it what you like, because we don't have a vocabulary. And we don't have a vocabulary, as far as I know, for the different modes. They've all got lovely names in Europe, their modes, but these modes are different. So what I want to do now is to explore, there's actually 5 different modes there, depending which note is the centre. And I want to explore those modes. But I don't want to explore them technically so much as emotionally. I want all of us to develop a feeling for how the mode works. And so what I hope you get from today's session is a feeling for how these pentatonic modes work. But also, this is perhaps more important, I hope you get a method for tasting modes. Because, as I said, many of the Irish pieces are based on a pentatonic mode, but they might actually have 6 notes in them. So you want to taste that mode and see what the flavour is. Okay? So this is a bit like a wine tasting session. Okay? We've got 5 different wines to taste, but I'm not just showing you these 5 wines, I'm teaching you how to taste effectively. Let's start with the mode that has G as the centre. And you see I put G in the centre there. So let's think of G as the centre. Now we like this on the harp because our sisters are tuned to G, so that's 2 Gs. And the lowest note, chronon G, you might have some extra low notes, but the lowest theoretical note in the system. So our harp likes having G as its centre. So, what I'd like to do is just play some Gs, play those Gs, that is your centre. And this is how to start off. Could you stop tuning now? Tuning finished quite a long time ago. When you're tasting a mode, start off on the centre. Start from the centre. So let's play those Gs. Find G, we're playing G. And concentrate on the octave. You've tuned probably 1 octave into this special tuning. Stay in that central octave. Okay. So we found our centre. Now what we want to do is to find 1 note away, the note above. After you've played that note, you couldn't end there. Where does it want to go?
Or down.
Or down again, yeah. So explore that going away from the centre and feeling the pull that pulls you back to the centre again. Just stay with those notes, just the centre and the one above. Now, what we want to do to get the passion of this mode, to get the emotions of the mode, we need to feel the tension when we move away from the centre. So here we are in the centre. We're at home and relaxed. That's more tense. And then we come back home. So play that little exchange, play your centre note, go to the note above, and feel the relaxation as you come back down again. Okay. Now, what I'd like to do is to explore 2 notes away. So here's our centre. We're going to move through this note, so there, and come back. Play that. Now, I'd like you to think about levels, if you like, of tension and relaxation. In harmonic music, we talk about dissonance and resolution, but let's call it tension and relaxation. So, I want you to tell me, as I play this next note, is it more tense than the centre or more relaxed? Okay.
It's more relaxed in the centre.
More tense. Tense.
Yeah. So this high note is the tense, and this is falling back to be relaxed. Now what about when I go 2 notes away? Tense.
Resolve.
It feels like it resolves, doesn't it? It feels like a resolution. So we've got a little kind of, we can make a little map of this mode. It like goes up a hill of tension, but as you carry on in the same direction, the tension reduces. So just now play again, find your centre note. Feel the tension as you go to this note above, and feel how it relaxes onto the B. As you come down again, you get more tension, and back again. Now let's find the next note in the mode. You've got some strings that are tuned in unisons. The next new note is this one. Now what do you think about the relationship between the third note, 1, 2, 3, 4,
Gap.
there's a gap there. What about this question of tension and relaxation? How does that feel to you? Still relaxed. Which is more relaxed, the B or the D?
Who would argue it's B? The third one.
I don't think there's a right answer to that. And what I'm trying to do here, I'm not trying to give you the answers, I'm trying to awaken your sensitivity. So you're tasting 2 different wines here, and I'm asking you, which is the best one? And you're saying, well, they're different, but I'm tasting lots of stuff. But yeah, maybe this one, I don't know. And the main thing I want you to do is to taste with great sensitivity, so that you might not reach a decision, or you might reach a different decision to somebody else. That doesn't matter. It's the sensitivity of tasting and the listening to what's happening that we're going for. Now, what about as we carry on upwards? Where does that note want to go?
Down.
Down again. So this note is definitely more tense, and the D that it can fall down to makes a resolution for it. So we've got centre, tense, relaxed, relaxed, tense, relax. Just play those for yourself. Come slowly up the scale. Tension on the A, relax, relax, tense on the E, and fall back down. Back to the B, and A is tense, and the G centre. Now, this B is a really interesting note. It sort of could stick there for a while, and it could go either way. It could go, if you come to the A, it must go on down, and then we're there, we've finished. If I go down, I I need to go down again. But from that B, I can also go up and stop there. If I go up as far as the E, I have to come down again. Or I could make a big effort getting my forces ready. Yes, I'm ready. I'm going to go all the way up to this high G, and then I'm home again. But it took me a kind of effort to get there. Yeah? Because when I was on the E, the easy solution is to let it fall. And it requires a kind of emotional effort to get there. But once I've got there, I'm okay.
From the sol la ti do upwards, I can feel a real tension wanting to go up.
You feel you want to go up?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
But it can also come down and settle.
Sure.
So you've got choices. But when you're around here, you can settle there for a while, but you can't settle there forever. At some point, you either have to make the effort and go up, or slide back down. You can also go downwards. Explore downwards now. If you just come down to the E from the G, the E's definitely tense, and it wants to come up again. If you go down as far as the D, you can settle for a while. But it wants to come up again. So this is the work of exploring the mode. There's not a right and a wrong answer. There's just sensitivity and thinking and trying. And see what happens if you go this way. See what happens if you go that way. Try to get sensitive to where you need an effort and where you can just roll back again. Those kind of things. It's not right and wrong, but it's getting sensitive. And this is really important because in history, the way of being emotional with the music, the way of expressing the emotion, the way emotion works in the music is different. Just like the instruments, the old instruments are different from new instruments, actually the way of dealing with emotions is different. The things you do are different. So, to give a good example, one of the main ways that a modern opera singer shows emotion is by singing really high, really loud, not taking any breaths and using lots of vibrato. And none of that really applies to traditional music. Many romantic players of romantic music, Chopin, these sort of Chopin piano pieces, these kind of repertoires, part of the style is to be very artistic with the rhythm, change the rhythm, make little pauses, slow down, speed up. We call it rubato, robbed time. So you play around with the time. Vacillating rhythm is one of the phrases for it. So you're using the rhythm to be expressive. But as you'll hear in my workshop tomorrow, they didn't do that in the 17th century. So we've got to look for other ways to be expressive, and we've got to become sensitive to these other ways. And this is, if you like, learning how to listen, learning how to feel what these modes are like. So that was our first mode, starting on the G, and it could go either way. The G is not it's not a tonic in the sense of being the lowest note of the scale. It's the centre of a mode. So the tune might start off going up, which is the famous tuning prelude. Yeah? or it might start off going down, like that. So for each of the tune modes, I wanted to show you a piece. So here's a piece, we heard it last night. There's your centre note, G, and the whole tune is completely pentatonic. Does anybody know the tune? It's one of the very...
The bunting version of Tom Shimaka, is it?
It's Tommy. Here I am asleep and don't waken me. So here I've got my centre. I start by going down, and it brings me back to the centre. So as I start at the beginning of the tune, I've come back to the centre. This note is tense. Relax. Tense note. Temporary resting place. Tense. Home. So by exploring that, yes, good on you. Yeah, I don't know the big Gaelic. Fantastic. What's that? Oh, wow, well done. Brilliant.
We've been songs, happiness, gal, bride songs,
Yeah.
and lullabies.
Okay. So
Calm.
we may not find there's a perfect mapping that one mode is only suitable for one of these types of emotion, but let's see. In our two modes, we had our G mode, and we had our E mode. So which of those categories would you put this in? Here's our G mode. Is that happy, sad, or sleepy? Three dwarfs.
Happy.
Happy? Okay. What about this one? Sad. Okay. And we had pretty strong agreement on that. So we've only played two notes of the mode. So right away we've got an emotional reaction to the mode. Now it may be as we play a certain tune that as the tune gets more complex, that initial impression might get changed. That's fine. The point here is not to produce answers for you. The point here is to get you listening and tasting the flavour of these restricted modes. It's a little bit like we would have a comparative tasting, not of wine, but of different spring waters. So I've got lovely mineral water from different parts of Ireland, and we taste the Galway water and see how it's different from the Kilkenny water. It's quite subtle. So you can't just glug it down and hope that you're going to get the taste of it. You've got to put it on the tip of your tongue and consider it for a while to get the flavour. Okay, so here we are. We're going to work on the E mode for a while. So play your centre note, E. And now the first note above that is G. And that definitely wants to fall down, back to the centre. That's the same in most modes. The note above just wants to fall back to the centre. Now go to the next note, E, G, and to A. Now, as Bob was saying, in the other mode, when we got to the third note, it was relaxed. But what about this one?
Tension seems to be croaking a little.
Yeah, there's more tension on this third note. So this mode's quite different. It's got this kind of sad feeling with a minor third at the beginning, and then the third note up is not a relaxation place. Let's carry on. It really wants to fall down a minute. Let it fall down. Now let's get some more determination. Let's go up through and go one note higher. Centre, there's the G, here's the A, it's pretty tense, let's carry on to B. And if it were in tune, that B would give you a temporary resting place. Listen once I play.
So where's your G?
So the third note was a tense place, but the fourth note gives you a place where you can stop for a while. You couldn't finish the tune there, but you can stay there for a while. Now comes the real fun bit. Let's go up as far as there. Centre of E, G to the A, B. The B is a temporary resting place, but the next note up is D, and that wants to fall down again. And listen to how sad that falling down is. You've climbed up, and you want to fall again. Or, as I can see this is desperate waiting to do, you could gather some more energy and get all the way up to there. And there you could relax. Let's try those again. Starting from the centre E. G is kind of sad. A is more tense. And the B is a temporary resting place. Go up to the D. It wants to fall down again. Go up to the D again. And find the energy to push all the way up to E. We got there. But you know that that tune's going to fall again. And we'll end down there. Let's explore downwards. Let's go up first. Centre, G. A is more tense. B is temporary resting place. The D is tense and wants to fall. Or you can push all the way up to the top note. Now come down. And to finish, you need to go one lower and then come back up again. That's a very typical cadence, an ending formula for this mode. Is to overshoot your centre and come back. You could even overshoot further and you come back to the centre. And you can hear how every time I reach that centre again, I'm home. That can be the ending. I can go even further down. So this idea of the centre is important. It's not the lowest note of a scale, like in European music. It's a kind of centre, and once you've established it, it's very powerful. If you stop somewhere else, it's kind of, okay, I can be there, but I haven't finished. No way I can finish there. And even the high octave is very beautiful, but needs to fall down again.
Is that universal? Because I was really hearing Chinesey, Japanesey things there when they were going up.
Yeah, this is the question, because here we are, first of all, we're 21st century people, we're a mixture of different cultural backgrounds, and we're exploring what we find, what we feel. Even amongst us, that's going to be different. We have little differences. I mean, you have a personal thing that you love the idea of going up with these modes to get away from the tension place. And I have always the first thought they want to fall again. And that's great. We're responding to them in different ways. It's a very personal thing. And we could do a 6-year research project on whether the typical Western European person and the typical Irish person and the typical Japanese person respond to the same modes in the same ways or different ways? I don't know. The usual answer in music psychology is that it's conditioned when you're a teenager, and basically around the years 10 to 15 is when it all gets fixed. From what you hear and the associations of that fixes it. But we're exploring some new territory here. We haven't heard exactly this, so we haven't got so many associations. So, yeah, deep questions which nobody's really asked. People are just beginning to ask these questions about the European modes, which have been studied to death, but the emotion side hasn't been asked about. And this stuff hasn't been studied at all. So, yeah. So that was our E mode. Oh, we need a tune. And I've got a page here. Let's see. I think the tune was E. Ah, yeah. It's just one of my favourite Carolan tunes, which is definitely his E mode. He actually uses another note, but it's really centred on that mode. Notice how it starts with that very emotional. There it can't be the ending, it's not on the centre. And there's the ending place. Okay, 3 more modes to explore. Let's do the A mode now. I want to tell you another, right at the beginning, when we were exploring the notes of our pentatonic series. Yeah, just play those notes. Those are our basic pentatonic notes. Like it says on the board. D, E, G, A, B. Just go round those a bit. Listen a moment. What does this remind you of? Okay, what is it? Which is Burns March, yeah. That was Anne's thing on the first day? Yeah, so you should remember that tune. Because that's one of the things about the tune, it is purely pentatonic. That's one of the special things about it. Okay. Okay. A. By the way, you should just reassure yourself that all these modes are different. Yeah? Depending which note is the centre, they are all different. Because they have the third in a different place, each one of them. So the modes are actually all different. There are 5 and they're all different. Okay, let's do the A mode now. So play A, get into your centre of A. A. And let's do the usual thing. By now you should be getting good at knowing how to taste a mode. How you swirl the mode around in the wine glass. Okay? A good first thing to do is to go to the next note upwards and let it come down again. Now let's find the third note, it's D. And down again. Notice now that the third place, it was a relaxed place in our G mode. It was a very tense place in our E mode. The third note here is kind of medium tense. not as tense as the second note, but also it's not a finishing place. It wants to come back down again. Or as Susan would say, it wants to go up. Let's try going up. 1. Take it to the E. And the E is your temporary resting place. Come back down again. Now listen to what happens if you go further up. Just listen once for a moment. Listen now. More tense. Medium tense. There's our temporary resting place. Very special emotion. There's the third there, as you go from... So it starts off. This could be medium happy. But when we go, it's quite a different emotion that we get as we go into the top part of this mode. So try it, let's explore that. Here's the A. Go up, keep on going up to the T, and then as you reach E, E is your temporary resting place. And go up to that G, and fall down again. Try it again, E to G, and fall down. And now gather the energy and go to the G and on upwards to get to A, we made it. And now come down through the mode, down to G and back. So, listen a moment. This is your basic testing technique. Find the centre of the mode. Right now it's A. Explore the first note up. How does that feel? Explore the next note up. How does that feel? Somewhere in your mode you will find the temporary resting place. There it is in this mode. It's the fifth above the centre. Explore the rest of the mode, coming down again. Find the way to get all the way up to the top. Now come down and go one below to feel the cadence. Okay, let's do that. Here we go. Here's the centre note. Go one above and fall down again. Go to the next note up and fall down again. Keep going up, and now we've found the temporary resting place. Don't play that note. Go up again and fall down. G, please don't pollute the waters. Now let's go to E, G, and go up to A. And now come down through the mode, A, G, E, down to G, and back to the centre of A. Okay? You can also explore a bit further down. Listen now. I'll listen. I'll go up. Temporary resting place. Falling. Getting up to the top. Falling all the way down. Cadence. Centre. Now I can go lower. Still what makes a good ending. Yeah? So we explore a little bit at a time, taking the time to listen and try to get the feeling of each note as we play it. Here's a tune that is basically in that mode. Do you want to play what it is? There's one note which is out of the mode, which makes it. I'll play it with the full version. I have to sing it. Da dum da da da. Karen's Farewell to Music. It has one note outside the mode once. So very, very strongly in this mode, just one little.
Which note is it of the
C.
C?
Yeah.
It's Pentatonic, the same that Siobhan played last night.
Ah, yeah.
Because it starts with your cadence.
Yes.
That's the opening of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So there are very many tunes that are basically almost in these modes and just have a little bit away from it. And just as we find as harpers, we see there's a tune which has got the occasional sharp or flat in it which we can't play on our harps. We say, okay, we're not worried about that. It's a little thing you can do on the fiddle, but you can't do it on the harp. And so it is with the modes too. There are little extra notes that are outside the mode. It doesn't kill the mode. It's like putting some sauce on it. The mode is still the basic thing. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Why are you skipping some notes?
They chose not to use all the notes. So in our modern Western European music, we use essentially a 12-note scale, but we tend to have things in scales that only use 8 of those 12 notes. Yeah? Actually, the 12-note scale itself is a construct. It's not a given. So in Arabic music, they have 16-note scales and 30-note scales, and there are 64-note scales. There's all kinds of scales. And you can decide for yourselves how many notes you have. But one of the characteristics of early Irish and Scots music is that it's mostly pentatonic. Sometimes exclusively, sometimes mostly, but very often really centred on a 5-note scale rather than an 8-note scale of European music. That's the whole thing. And sometimes even less.
But how do you know which ones to skip when you're playing the mode?
You
just
choose. You choose. Because you choose your mode. If you were composing a piece, you would choose which mode to be in. And as we saw with our tuning exercise at the beginning, and with the Pew book that I showed you, the medieval approach was to tune the mode into your instrument. And now you don't have to decide. The instrument's decided for you. You are in that mode. You're now stuck. You are in that mode until you decide to retune. So that's an initial decision. You first tune your instrument, and that decides which scale you've got. And one of the options is only having 5 different notes in the scale. But even with that option, there's 5 different modes. When you've got 5-note scale, there are 5 different modes you can find within it, according to where you put the centre. So we've done G, A, and E. Let's do D. Here's the D mode. So we play D. D. D is the centre. Play the note above. And it wants to fall back to the D. The next note is going to be G. And it's moderately relaxed, but it's not settled, it wants to come back again. So far, this mode is very similar to the A mode we just had. And now carry on up, D, E, G to A. There is your temporary resting point. But now when you go up, listen, we're on the A, and go up. down again. Now I want you to, I want to play for a moment. Would you listen, please? First of all, I want to go back to the A mode we just had. It starts the same. More tense, moderately tense, resting place. And then it had this very emotional next note. Which I feel as being quite sad. This is a very expressive note for me. Here's our other mode. We're now on D. The intervals are the same to begin with. More tense, kind of medium is our resting place. So far it's the same feelings. Now listen to the next note, the high note of the mode. Instead of that sad emotional note we had in the A mode, we've now got this kind of sweet. For me this is sort of like it's like the smell of the very fresh air, or the smell of in the summer, that very sort of green smell. Compare that to our A mode. So although there's only one interval that's different, the modes are, for me, quite a different emotional flavour. And let's carry on exploring our D mode. So we're on D as the centre. Here's the E, more tense. Here's the G, kind of medium. Here's the A, temporary resting point. Here's this smell of flowers on a summer day. As you go to the B and fall back down to your centre. Let's now go all the way up to the top of the mode and go on up to D and come back down again and listen to the cadence. There. I couldn't think of a tune on this mode, but Simon came up with one.
So this is the starting.
There's your centre. This is how the tune actually goes. Great. So actually,
So it's exploring the mode. It pushes higher and higher, and when you run out of fingers, you just kind of fold back and keep pushing higher, and it finishes with.
yeah, it just cascades down again. Thank you for that. So that was fair.
And I hope you all recognise that.
So our last mode is really weird, and I didn't think there would be any tunes, but apparently Simon's got a.
No, I lied.
Oh.
It's it starts on that note,
Yeah.
but actually it's the next one up that's the.
Yeah. Okay. The last mode.
So
I'm not-
I truly believe it's impossible.
Okay. This is my hypothesis. So here's the challenge. I'll just show you this mode. I don't think it's part of Gaelic music. So this is the B mode. B is your centre. So there's your first interval, kind of sad. Also tense. That has to fall down again. There's no resting place in this mode because there's no fifth, as Simon pointed out to me. This temporary resting place, all the other modes have it, but this one doesn't. Ugh. or I can do a Susan and push all the way up. But it still doesn't feel like I've got anywhere. And that for me, although it's completely pentatonic, to my ears that does not sound Gaelic at all. It's really weird.
It's more,
So-
it's more blues-like,
Yeah,
a blues scale,
yeah.
like on the guitar.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
Sure, it's got all the pentatonic notes in it, but because of where you put the centre in this strange place, it just doesn't work the same way. So there's a challenge. Can anybody disprove our hypothesis that there are our hypothesis that this mode centred on B doesn't have any Irish tunes in this mode? Prove us wrong by finding a tune. There's your challenge. In the
Is there a
meantime,
prize?
yeah, I'll
Recognition.
international recognition, eternal fame and glory, and a large Scotch. Sorry, or if it's a Scottish tune, or a large Irish whiskey, it's an Irish tune. Okay. Seriously, what was today all about? The first thing it was about is that Gaelic music uses gapped scales. It tends to focus on only certain notes of the scale. Actually, every music we know in the world selects certain notes out of all the possible frequencies and uses them in particular ways. Gaelic music focuses on scales that have more gaps and fewer notes. Makes a very distinctive flavour. Gaelic music focuses on essentially pentatonic scales, more or less based around 5 notes, sometimes with some extra ones, but really focusing on 5 notes as being essential. And those 5 notes, the easiest way on our harps is D, E, G, A, B. And so ba 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 be ba 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 be ba ba teaches you your essential pentatonic notes, among other things. But even with only 5 notes available, we've got 5 different modes, and this was what I hope you got from today, that by listening and playing very selectively and exploring slowly, you can develop a feel for how these notes feel emotionally. And this is really important because we want to find a way to play this music where we can find the feelings that are inside it rather than imposing our own feelings. So we have to taste, but taste in a very subtle and discerning way, listening carefully and getting the particular flavours of each of these modes. And then the last thing, we came up with tunes for each of these modes except the mode beginning on B. And part is a joke, but actually it's quite an interesting challenge. Can we find any Gaelic piece centred on the B mode? My bet is no. So at the end, at the end of the year, Simon and I will treat ourselves to that glass of whiskey as the winners of the bet, okay? Unless one of you can prove us wrong. Thank you very much. We're done.